Everyone, this is Mrs. Reyes, the virtual me. Sorry I can't be here today, but you're not going to lose much in terms of instructions. I'm going to go over everything for you in this video. So here's today's class agenda. It's Wednesday, November 6th, and our learning goal today is you will be able to generate ethics question and evaluate both positions for Wednesday's reading log. First, let's go ahead and have your book out and also your reading log. Mr. D will come around to stamp that section. So when I do collect it, I'll give you full credit for that portion. Also, have your bell ringer out for Wednesday's wise words. I'm looking for 5 sentences minimum or meeting that section as it's pretty limited in space. Remember, your bell ringer is due Thursday, valued at 10 points because Friday is our annual walkathon. Additionally, today you are going to prepare for your No Red Ink quiz, which is tomorrow. Yes, your quiz is tomorrow, and it's valued at 10 points in the test category. So for today, we are going to mimic the quiz, which is going to be identical to the one you will have tomorrow. But this quiz will not count, and it will tell you what you can actually prepare for. So just remember that your quiz will be based on a couple of things. This is the commonly misused words part 1, and this one is the commonly misused word used part 2. So for your practice, it'll be on its versus its, a versus an, two versus two versus two, no versus no, a lot versus a lot, and there versus there, and versus there. You also have this list over here, so there's a lot to remember, but with practice, I'm sure you'll do well. Going back to your class agenda, after your bell ringer, you'll take your No Red Ink practice quiz, and then we are going to work on Chapter 7, our Wednesday ethics, which is due Tuesday, the start of class, valued at 20 points, simply because Friday section will be eliminated. And you should be, just to be in good timing of your flip book, you should have Chapter 6 questions done along with the vocabulary. Now, looking over here for the homework section, remember, read theory, 4 quizzes at your reading level or above, due at the end of the month, and it will be in the test category. I did mention, going back over here, that you're going to take your No Red Ink practice quiz after the bell ringer, but I think since for video purposes here, I'm going to go over your bell ringer, and then we'll transition to our reading log. So then that independent time that you have, you can choose to finish your reading log, finish Chapter 7 reading, and then you can proceed with the No Red Ink practice quiz. That'll be just an easier transition along the way. Now, for your Wednesday's wise words, what is the meaning of the following quote? Do you agree, and how does it relate to your life or the world around you? This quote is by Martha Thatcher, who is the Prime Minister of the UK from 1979 to 1990. She was called the Iron Lady for her strong leadership style. She says, if you set out to be liked, you would be prepared to compromise on anything at any time, and you would achieve nothing. Once again, if you set out to be liked, you would be prepared to compromise. That means to give in on anything at any time, and you would achieve nothing. It's always better to stand out, to thrive in that sense, instead of just following other people, because you're giving in to your morals, giving in to your integrity, giving in to a lot of things, your character, your strength, and who you are as an individual when you're trying to meet the needs of other people. When actuality, you should be focusing on yourself and believing in yourself, so then you are a stronger individual and you can aim and achieve your goal. Now, I'll allow you to work on this, but again, for video purposes, I'm going to go straight ahead so then you can have that independent time to work on all of these things, and knowing that obviously your bell ringer isn't due until Thursday, which is tomorrow. So for the purpose of our reading today, remember, you need to answer Chapter 6 questions. That's to be on good timing, that is. And for some of you, you could be on Chapter 7. You're all at your own pace, but again, Chapter 6 should be where you are, just to be in good timing for when your flip book is due at the end when we are done. And the novel should be about 23 chapters or so. So we're not even halfway there. So let's look ahead at Chapter 7 for Wednesday's ethics. First and foremost, today is November 6th, and this is Chapter 7. For today's reading, the main ideas are the 11's advance. We sat through chapter 6 during the ceremony of the ones and the twos and so forth. Now it's Jonas's turn. The chief of elders makes a speech and kind of delays it, but you know what? It's reeling us in, hooking us in the sense where we're kind of on edge, wanting to know what Jonas is prepared for. And the next one is singled out, and we'll go ahead and write a summary once we're done reading. For today, it's all about ethics. And remember, ethics is there are controversial things, debatable things that are not really black and white, are not really yes or no, not really, dry or, there's so many shades in between. In other words, where you're finding that line drawn in the middle, and you really don't know where to go. So our ethics question today is job placement justified for a balanced community, for a growing economy? I mean, we can understand that, as I mentioned before, there are certain countries, our competitors, if you look at it, other countries who are exceeding us in science, in the medical field, and so forth, in technology, simply because they're forcing jobs on their children in the same way this country is. But we live in a country where we have all of these wonderful things and the privilege of choosing our own jobs. But at the same time, when we do that, we're focusing a lot in the humanities aspect, the arts, such as, we have a lot of people who want to be singers, actors, some artists and so forth. And as wonderful as that is, what a great aspiration, of course, but it doesn't really help us move, our world forward in that sense. So do you think job placement is justified for a balanced community? What would be your take on that? As we read, please look for a quote to answer the following questions. So let's follow along on page 50 of your book, chapter 7, and that's a small book right there. Now, Jonas's group had taken a new place in the auditorium, trading with the new 11, so that they sat in the very front, immediately before the stage. They were arranged by their original numbers, the numbers they have had been given at birth. The numbers were rarely used after the naming, but each child knew his number, of course. Sometimes parents used them in an irritation at a child's misbehavior, indicating that mischief made one unworthy of a name. Jonas always chuckled when he heard a parent, exasperated, call sharply to a whining toddler, "That's enough, 23." Jonas was 19. He had been in the 19th new child born his year. It had meant that at his naming, he had been already standing and bright-eyed, soon to walk and talk. It had given him a slight advantage the first year or two, a little more maturity than many of his group mates who had been born in the later months of that year. But it evened out, as it always did, by 3. After 3, the children progressed as much as the same level, though by their first number, one could always tell who was a few months older than others in the group. Technically, Jonas's full number was 1119, since there were other 19s, of course, in each age group. And today, now the new 11s had been advanced this morning. There were 2 1119s. At the midday break, he had exchanged smiles with the new one, a shy female named Harriet. But the duplication was only for a few hours. Very soon, he would not be an 11, but a 12. And an age would no longer matter. He would be an adult like his parents, though a new one and an untrained still. Asher was 4 and sat now in the row ahead of Jonas. He would receive his assignment 4th. Fiona, 18, was on his left, and on the other side sat 20, a male named Pierre, whom Jonas didn't like very much. Pierre was very serious, not much fun, and worried and tattletaled too. "Have you checked the rules, Jonas?" Pierre was always whispering solemnly. "I'm not sure that's within the rules." Usually it was some foolish thing that no one cared about, opening his tunic, if it was a day with a breeze, taking a brief try on a friend's bicycle just to experience the different feel of it. The initial speech at the ceremony of 12 was made by the chief elder. The leader of the community was elected every 10 years. The speech was much the same each year, recollection of the time of the childhood and the period of preparation, the coming responsibilities of adult life, and the profound importance of assignment, the seriousness of training to come. Then the chief elder moved ahead in her speech. This is the time, she began, looking directly at them, when we acknowledge differences. You 11s have spent all of your years till now learning to fit in, to standardize your behavior, to curb any impulse that might set you apart from the group. But today, we honor your differences. They have determined your future. All right, guys, leaving off on page 52, notice there is their assignment right there. Is job placement justified for a balanced community, for a growing economy? You want to choose a quote that shows that they are talking about their future and their assignments. And if you don't like the ones that I've actually already read up to page 52, you can read ahead and find another quote. Again, any quote that shows them assigning them, the 11s, their job assignments. Now, from there, you need to answer where we evaluate how and why are these words controversial, debatable. Well, individuals have personal aspirations and interests. At the same time, we have to acknowledge the employment needs for a prosperous place. So we kind of see both sides of the argument, making it debatable, arguable, and really hard to stand on one side, if not wavering down the middle. After you answer this question right here, and you'll see all of this on Google Classroom, you will notice the section number 2 where you put in your opinion based on that question. It is harmful or helpful because, well, where do you stand based on the question right here? Do you agree or disagree? If you had a choice, do you think it's harmful? And go ahead and explain. Or do you think it's helpful? Go ahead and explain. Remember, to get full credit, you must fill in all of these sections. During your independent time, let me remind you what you have to do. You can finish reading chapter 7 quietly and answering 2 to 3 sentences right here in present tense for the summary of chapter 7. Then proceed with Wednesday's wise words, or do whichever order you want, whichever is easiest for you. For Wednesday's wise words, 5 sentences about Margaret Thatcher's quote right here. And then from there, you can transition as well to your practice quiz on no red ink. Just a little icon up here about read theory if you have extra time. Now, you all have something to do. This is a short period. Just be mindful. Use your time wisely. And remember, Mr. D will be writing down names for anyone who misbehaves, and I will be notifying your parents. And if you're really good, he'll write down your name too, and I'll give lots of kickboard points, positive points. I'll see you tomorrow.